Today, we're jumping into a story that's as uncomfortable as it is profound. It's about a hero of faith who tells this huge lie. And then a foreign king actually ends up looking more honorable than the prophet himself. How does that happen? So this gets us to the really tough question at the heart of this thing, right? How do we deal with profound faith and profound failure in the same person? I mean, can someone be a genuine hero one minute and a deceptive coward the next? Let's dive into the story and see what we find. To really get into this, we're looking at a theological analysis of Genesis chapter 20. This is where the whole high-stakes drama between Abraham, his wife Sarah, and this king named Abimelech goes down. All right, so let's set the scene. The whole story kicks off with a lie. And look, this isn't just some small vibe. It's coming from a guy who just had this incredibly powerful, direct encounter with God. The timing here is absolutely everything. Abraham has just been given one of the most incredible promises in the whole Bible, that he and his wife Sarah, who are super old, are gonna have a son, Isaac. This son will be the father of a great nation. The stakes are sky high. So with this massive, life-changing promise still fresh in his mind, what does he do? He travels to this new place called Gerar. And you won't believe the first thing he does when he gets there. He falls back into this old paranoid habit. He's so scared the local men will kill him to get to his beautiful wife Sarah that he tells everyone, oh no, she's my sister. And of course, what happens? The king, Abimelech, hears there's this beautiful, available woman and brings her into his palace. What's really crazy is this isn't even the first time he's done this. He pulled the exact same move years ago in Egypt. So you have to wonder, is his fear constantly winning out over his faith? Okay, so just think about this for a second. The woman who is supposed to be the mother of this promised nation is now in a foreign king's palace. The entire promise God just made is hanging by a thread. I mean, the situation is looking pretty bleak, and that's exactly when God steps in and things get dramatic. Can you just imagine being King Abimelech? You're asleep, minding your own business, and then bam! God himself shows up in your dream with this terrifying message. And the words are so direct, right? You are as good as dead. There's no sugarcoating it. Abimelech, who thought he was doing everything on the up and up, is now staring down a death sentence for a sin he didn't even know he was about to commit. Wow. And this is where things get really interesting, because you see God's character in full view. On one hand, yeah, it's a super harsh warning, but on the other, there's a lot of mercy here. God straight up tells him, look, I know you had a clear conscience, and that's why I stopped you. And then here's the kicker. God tells the king that the guy who lied to him, Abraham, is a prophet, and he's the one who's going to pray for the king's healing. So even after this massive failure, God doesn't strip Abraham of his title. Wild. So you know what has to happen next, right? The dream is over, the sun comes up, and now this completely innocent king has to go confront the so-called prophet who totally deceived him. I mean, you can just feel the betrayal and the pure righteous anger in Abimelech's words. He's like, what have you done to us? This isn't just about him being tricked. Abraham's lie put his whole kingdom at risk. And here's the irony. The king, the guy who isn't even one of God's chosen people, seems to have a better grasp on morality and divine justice than Abraham does in this moment. He's the one who has to spell out just how bad this is. And that right there is the central irony of this entire story. It's just a total role reversal. You've got Abraham, the man of faith, acting out of pure fear and making a huge mess. And then you have Abimelech, this foreign king who God himself says has an upright heart. He immediately respects God's command and tries to make everything right. It's just not what you'd expect at all. So when Abimelech calls him out, what's Abraham's excuse? He basically says, well, I just figured there was no fear of God in this place, so I thought you guys would kill me for my wife. His entire lie, his whole scheme, was based on this totally cynical assumption about these people. An assumption that the king's honorable actions proved was completely and utterly wrong. So, you might be wondering, what's the point of all this? Why is a story like this even in the Bible? Well, it's way more than just a crazy anecdote. The analysis we're looking at shows it's packed with some really crucial lessons about God and, the messy reality of what faith actually looks like. Okay, takeaway number one is huge. God's plan is not fragile. His main goal here was to protect Sarah so that promise of a son could be fulfilled. And get this, his plan works despite Abraham's mess-ups, not because of it. It's such a powerful reminder that our human weaknesses, our fears, they just can't stop God's purpose. The second big lesson here is just a major dose of reality. Even our biggest heroes are flawed. I mean, Abraham is this pillar of faith, right? But here, we see him totally controlled by fear. The point isn't to shame him, though. It's to show us that failure can actually be a good thing. It can push us to trust God more instead of relying on our own flawed plans. And finally, the third takeaway is just beautiful. It shows us that God's grace isn't some exclusive club. His justice and his mercy weren't just for Abraham. He actually stepped in to protect Abimelech, a king from outside the covenant, from sinning without even knowing it. It proves that God cares about what's right, no matter who's doing it. His concern goes way beyond just one family or one group of people. And all of this leaves us with a really big question to chew on. This story forces us to wrestle with this tension, right? God's perfect, unstoppable plans are somehow carried out by imperfect, weak, and often fearful people like us. How do those two things exist at the same time? That is definitely something worth thinking about.